Alright, everybody buckle in, because tonight the drama did not just knock on the door, it kicked the whole thing off the hinges, and Cardi B is standing right in the middle of the wreckage, staring at a phone that will not stop lighting up. If you missed even a second of the last 72 hours in celebrity news, sit down and stay seated, because Cardi B is at the center of a firestorm that stretches from the stage lights of Essence Festival all the way into the comment sections where fans are now openly accusing Thee Stallion of bleaching her skin, and where Latto is being credited with landing what might be the sharpest jab of the entire year. Cardi B did not just react, Cardi B detonated. And by the end of tonight's breakdown, you're going to understand why the internet is calling this the wildest week the Barty gang has ever survived. Picture this scene for a second. Cardi B walks off the Essence Festival stage in New Orleans, sweat still fresh on her forehead, and she has this look on her face. That look every performer gets when they know something did not sit right. The audience is cheering, sure, but Cardi B is already replaying every syllable in her own head. And within 24 hours, Cardi B is on a live stream telling the world exactly what happened, and the confession is more raw than anyone expected. Cardi B admits she was yelling, not performing loudly, yelling, screaming into a microphone because she genuinely believed the crowd could not hear her. And that admission cracked the internet wide open. Roll the tape, because the words speak louder than any headline. Cardi B says, and this is a direct pull from the live stream, that performing in a stadium is nothing like performing in an arena. Cardi B says the sound bounced. Cardi B says everything echoed. Cardi B says the entire experience felt like she was chasing her own voice through a canyon. And the second Cardi B admitted that on live, the Barty gang split into two camps faster than anyone could hit reply. One camp said Cardi B was being humble and vulnerable and honest in a way most artists never dare to be. The other camp said Cardi B choked in front of the biggest predominantly black festival on the planet, and no amount of post-game narration was going to fix the footage. Both camps are loud. Both camps have receipts, and Cardi B is refusing to duck either one. Here is where the story gets even more layered, because this Essence set was not just any festival appearance. Cardi B was the headliner. Cardi B closed out night one. Cardi B had the pressure of a full stadium, a live broadcast crew, a ticket-holding crowd measured in the tens of thousands, and a set list that was supposed to serve as a victory lap after the release of her new project. And the moment that set list hit a certain song, the song titled Errtime, every single ear in the venue pricked up, because Cardi B had already made the boldest decision of the entire performance before she even took the stage. Cardi B walked out with a plan. Cardi B walked out with a mission. And that mission included erasing Latto's name from the biggest song of the night. That is not speculation. That is not a rumor. That is what actually happened. Cardi B swapped the name Latto out of Errtime and replaced it with the words Barty and Henny, a shout-out to her own sister. And once the crowd realized what had just happened, the venue felt it. The livestream chats felt it. And Latto's fans absolutely felt it. Because up until that moment, most of the internet assumed Cardi B and Latto were still walking a fragile little tightrope of maybe cordial, maybe cool, maybe someday friends again. Cardi B just kicked the tightrope down. And now Latto is standing on solid ground with a diss track already loaded and a chart position climbing behind her. Here is the backstory nobody wants to admit aloud, because everyone in the industry has been tiptoeing around it for months. Cardi B and Latto used to be genuine allies. Cardi B and Latto used to trade compliments in interviews, ride together on features, and defend each other in comment sections. The whole female rap unity narrative was built on the foundation of a Cardi and Latto alliance. And then a phone call leaked. That is the moment everything cracked. A phone call between Cardi B and the manager of Ice Spice. And inside that phone call, Cardi B was heard using a word that Latto has now made into the centerpiece of her entire response track. Cardi B called Latto a name that landed harder than any lyric ever could. Cardi B apologized publicly. Cardi B tried to apologize privately. Cardi B even reached out to Latto's sister and Latto's manager and reportedly sent direct texts. And Latto still recorded the song. Latto still released the song. Latto still performed the song. And now, in the middle of Essence Festival, Cardi B pulled Latto's name out of Errtime like it never belonged there in the first place. Some fans are calling this the Cardi comeback the culture needed. Other fans are calling this the pettiest move Cardi B has ever made on a national stage. And a third group, the group that watches every one of these dust-ups with a spreadsheet open, is pointing out that Latto did open for Cardi B that same night. Latto walked out as one of the openers. Latto performed on the same stage. And Latto's diss track was still charting on Spotify, while Cardi B was standing feet away deciding whether to say her name or not. What did Cardi B think was going to happen next? Was Cardi B supposed to walk out behind an opener who had just publicly called her out and then blow kisses at the woman? Not in this lifetime. Not in this dimension. Now let me pull you into the second detonation of the week, because the internet did not give anybody a chance to breathe. While Cardi B was still trending, Cardi B dropped a brand new song that immediately set every gossip account on fire. The song is called Aha, and the internet has decided, with almost cult-like certainty, that Aha is a direct message diss aimed at Latto. Cardi B has already confirmed publicly, out of her own mouth, that the song is a direct message to somebody. Cardi B said the words. Cardi B did not name the target. And Cardi B knew exactly what she was doing when she left that blank space in the interview. The lyrics landed on the internet like a puzzle. Fans on Twitter, or whatever we are calling that platform this week, began breaking down every single bar within an hour of the release. Cardi B has a bar in there where she is talking about a house so lavish, and she is essentially saying that to afford a house like this, you would have to sell your catalog. That single bar became the smoking gun, because Cardi B's fans immediately pointed out that the other name on the suspect list, Akbar V, does not even have a catalog to sell, which means the target has to be someone with actual publishing weight, actual back-end music income, actual industry position. And the only rapper on the current friction list who fits that description is Latto. Here is where the story gets even messier. Yeni, a personality who has already inserted herself into this multi-way tangle, went live and claimed she knew for a fact that Cardi B's new song was aimed at Akbar V. Yeni said it with her whole chest. Yeni said she had heard it, felt it, and read the code. And Yeni was immediately drowned out by the larger consensus that Akbar V simply does not carry the weight to warrant a Cardi B response of that caliber. Cardi B does not aim above the shoulder. Cardi B aims at eye level. And eye level, in this current female rap ecosystem, is Latto. A third theory did emerge, the Nicki Minaj theory. And I understand why fans always default there. The Cardi and Nicki timeline is a decade-long roller coaster with more corkscrews than a theme park. But at this exact moment in the current landscape, that beef has cooled into a low simmer. It exists. It always will. It is not on the front burner. Cardi B does not have the bandwidth to fight a legacy beef and a fresh beef at the same time. Cardi B has already chosen her lane. And her lane is aimed straight at Latto's back windshield. Drop a reaction below and tell me exactly where you stand, because this is where the culture divides. Do you think Cardi B was in her rights to erase Latto's name from Errtime, considering Latto refused to accept the public apology, refused the Birkin, and released a full diss instead? Or do you think Cardi B should have taken the higher road, performed the song as originally written, and let Latto's chart position speak for itself? Both answers have receipts. Both answers have a moral spine. But only one answer wins the algorithm. And I am about to tell you which one is trending harder as we speak. While all of this is happening, Latto is playing the smartest chess game of her entire career. Latto sat down with the Breakfast Club. Latto confirmed everything. Latto said yes. The song is about Cardi B. Latto explained that the reason she went in so hard is because Cardi B rushed to a studio during the early months of a very high-risk pregnancy to record a verse for Latto's Errtime remix. And then 2 days later, Latto woke up to the internet telling her that Cardi B had privately called her something ugly. Latto said the timeline of the disrespect is what stung the most. Latto did the verse out of genuine love. Latto showed up as a friend. And the payoff felt, to Latto, like a betrayal wrapped in a bow. Cardi B has now responded to Latto's Breakfast Club appearance with what might be one of the most transparent statements Cardi B has ever released in her entire public career. Cardi B admits she was in a heated moment. Cardi B admits she let her mouth run past her sense. Cardi B says she was 8 months pregnant, freshly off an album drop, running on fumes, and drowning in industry pressure. Cardi B says she did not mean the word. Cardi B says what she meant to say was that Latto was too forgiving of Ice Spice, that Latto extended too much mercy in a situation that did not deserve it. And Cardi B added something even more revealing. Cardi B said she has tried to fix this. Repeatedly. Cardi B says she reached out to Latto's sister. Cardi B says she reached out to Latto's manager. Cardi B says she has sent messages directly. Cardi B has, in her own words, gone farther on an apology tour than Cardi B has ever gone on any apology tour before. And that is the line that hit me hardest. Cardi B has never apologized this many times. Ever. Not to any peer, not to any journalist, not to any promoter. Which means the Latto friendship meant something real to Cardi B. And now that friendship is on the auction block, and every hip-hop journalist is holding a paddle, sometimes the lesson costs a stadium. Sometimes the lesson costs a Birkin. And sometimes the lesson costs a name drop on the biggest song of your comeback tour. Cardi B is learning all three of those lessons at the same time. And the internet is watching. Now let me pivot to the second front of this three-front war, because Megan Thee Stallion just walked into the crossfire without even meaning to. Megan Thee Stallion posted a cooking video on TikTok. That is it. Megan Thee Stallion put on an apron, grabbed a pan, and cooked what she calls $1 million spaghetti. And within minutes, the comment section erupted into an accusation that has been quietly building for months. Fans are now openly asking Megan Thee Stallion whether she is bleaching her skin. The comments are brutal. One viewer wrote, and this is verbatim, that Megan Thee Stallion looked like a mess, that the food looked like a mess, and that both Megan Thee Stallion and the food needed bleaching. Another viewer asked flatly, is she getting whiter? A third viewer went straight to the point and asked Megan Thee Stallion, are you bleaching, lovely? And the wildest part is that this was not one or two comments. This was hundreds of comments. Megan Thee Stallion's own kitchen video became a referendum on Megan Thee Stallion's skin tone. Now, in Megan Thee Stallion's defense, and I do want to give a full defense here, because the accusation is heavy, some fans immediately pointed out that the kitchen had white lighting. Some fans pointed out that Megan Thee Stallion's phone camera was on a high exposure setting. Some fans pointed out that even a small amount of daytime makeup can alter tone on video. And every one of those defenses is technically valid. But here is the counter that keeps coming back. Megan Thee Stallion is at home. Megan Thee Stallion is comfortable. Megan Thee Stallion is not in a full glam beat. Megan Thee Stallion is barefaced or close to it. And the shift the fans are noticing is not a one-video shift. It is a 2-year drift. That is the part fans keep circling back to. Megan Thee Stallion looks different in 2026 than Megan Thee Stallion looked in 2023, and they are demanding an explanation. I want to be careful here, because skin tone conversations inside the culture are landmines, and I have no interest in stepping on one. Megan Thee Stallion has never confirmed bleaching. Megan Thee Stallion has never denied bleaching. Megan Thee Stallion has simply lived her life while the internet forensically compares side-by-side photos in real time. Whether the shift is lighting, makeup, wellness routines, seasonal change, or something more permanent, that is not something I am here to declare. What I am here to declare is that the conversation is happening whether Megan Thee Stallion wants it to happen or not. And Megan Thee Stallion is going to have to decide, at some point, whether she addresses it head-on or lets the speculation compound. Because that is the trap of celebrity in this era. Silence does not read as privacy. Silence reads as confirmation. And Megan Thee Stallion has been silent long enough that the internet has already written the ending. Alright, back to the main event, because Cardi B is not done and Latto is not done and Aha is not done. Let me walk you through the receipt that fans have circled the hardest. Cardi B has a bar in the new song where she says, and this is close paraphrase because the language is spicy, that she will hand a woman exactly what that woman was begging for. Fans read that bar in one voice and said, that is Cardi B telling Latto that Latto asked for a war, and Cardi B is delivering the war on a silver platter. That is the read. That is the interpretation the internet has landed on. And Cardi B has not corrected it. Cardi B has not softened it. Cardi B has not offered a single interview clarifying who the song is about. Because silence, in this specific case, is doing the work for Cardi B. I want to be honest about something. When it comes to the current female rap ecosystem, my personal loyalty has always sat at the corner of Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion. I have loved Megan Thee Stallion since the Tina Snow days. I have loved Cardi B since the Bodak Yellow rollout. And if those two were ever to end up on opposite sides of a beef, I would sit that one out on principle. So when I break down the Cardi B and Latto situation, I am doing it from an honest place. Because I actually respect Latto's pen. Latto is not a filler artist. Latto is not a beneficiary of nepotism. Latto is a real songwriter with real production ears and a real fan base. This is not a David and Goliath situation. This is two heavyweight artists who used to be friends and are now standing across a ring with the whole culture in the audience. But here is the reality I keep coming back to. Cardi B apologized. Cardi B apologized publicly. Cardi B apologized privately. Cardi B offered the Birkin. Cardi B texted the sister. Cardi B contacted the manager. Cardi B did everything short of hand-delivering a personal handwritten letter tied with a ribbon. And Latto still walked out of that Breakfast Club interview with a diss confirmed and a chart position climbing. That is not a woman looking for a peace treaty. That is a woman looking for a moment. And Latto secured her moment. Nobody can take that from her. Which brings us to the question every gossip account is dancing around, and none of them are saying out loud. Does Cardi B owe Latto anything else at this point? Has Cardi B not already extended every branch a public apology can extend? At what point is Cardi B allowed to say, I tried, I meant it, and now I am done trying? Because I will tell you where I have landed. I think Cardi B extended more grace than most people in her position would have extended. And I think the second Latto confirmed the diss and walked out to perform the diss on a live tour, Cardi B was fully released from any further apology obligation. That is my honest read. Now I know some of you are going to say Cardi B started it. And you are right. Cardi B did start it. Nobody is disputing that. Cardi B said what she said on a phone call that she never expected to hear back. But when the person you offended refuses to accept the apology, refuses the gift, refuses the private conversation, and instead cashes the moment in for a hit single, the moral math changes. The person who started the fire does not get to be the only person condemned when the person on the other side is now selling gasoline. Did she really deliver a knockout? Or was Cardi B's essence set a stumble the internet will not forget? Let me tell you what the numbers say, because the numbers do not care about narratives. Cardi B's Aha debuted at number 94 on the United States Spotify chart with roughly 412,000 streams. On paper, that is a soft opening for a Cardi B song. On paper, that is not a Bodak Yellow rollout. And critics have absolutely seized on those numbers. Critics are saying Aha is a flop. Critics are saying Cardi B dropped the song too randomly, without enough marketing runway, without enough teaser rollout, without enough playlist push. And that critique has landed in enough gossip corners that it now has legs. But here is my counterpoint. A 94 position on a first-day debut for a song that was announced with almost no warning, dropped without a coordinated music video release, and released in the middle of a chart cycle dominated by end-of-summer projects. That is not a flop. That is a slow-burn setup. Cardi B is not a one-week artist. Cardi B is a full-cycle artist. Errtime charted differently on week 1 than it charted on week 6. The Cardi B rollout has always been about the second breath, not the first. And anyone declaring Aha dead after one chart cycle has clearly never watched a Cardi B campaign from start to finish. Which brings me to the part of this saga that has been criminally under-discussed. Cardi B's Little Miss Drama Tour was, and I want to be very clear about this, one of the best tours Cardi B has ever put on. The choreography was tighter. The set design was sharper. The vocal delivery was more disciplined. Cardi B was locked in from opening night to closing night, which is why the Essence Festival footage feels so jarring to longtime fans. Because it is not a reflection of who Cardi B is on tour. It is a reflection of a specific stage design that Cardi B did not have adequate rehearsal time in. Stadium acoustics are their own beast. Stadium acoustics eat vocals. Stadium acoustics scatter monitor mixes. Stadium acoustics have humbled artists 10 times more experienced than Cardi B on this specific type of stage. And when Cardi B says she could not hear herself, that is not an excuse. That is a technical reality that anyone who has ever worked front of house sound has personally witnessed. But the internet does not care about technical realities. The internet cares about the video clip. And the video clip shows Cardi B yelling. So the video clip wins. Now let me give you something you did not expect tonight. Cardi B, in the same live where she addressed the Essence performance, opened up about her postpartum recovery, her children, and her mental headspace in ways she has never opened up before. Cardi B talked about her daughter Blossom and the pink diamond necklace she now wears as a tribute to Blossom. Cardi B talked about her son Wave and how she cannot get through a FaceTime without smiling. Cardi B talked about Baby Brim and how his smile alone changes the temperature of an entire room. And then Cardi B said something that stopped me cold. Cardi B said the birth of Brim wrecked her body in a way Blossom's birth never did. Cardi B said she could not walk for a week. Cardi B said she could not stand. Cardi B said her pelvic floor was completely exhausted from carrying 2 babies back to back on almost no recovery gap. That is not a woman ducking accountability. That is a woman telling you why her stage presence had a slightly different rhythm this cycle. And if the culture cannot hold space for a woman who is 30-something, for kids in, and running the biggest hip-hop female roster in the country while still headlining Essence, then the culture needs to check itself before it types another comment about her yelling. Alright, let me hit you with the pull quote of the entire year. Cardi B, in that same live stream, said, direct quote, "I made them. I carried them." And the way Cardi B repeated that line, over and over, was not for us. It was for herself. That was a woman standing at the intersection of exhaustion and pride, telling the world that the reason her body is different, the reason her voice is different, the reason her energy is different, is because Cardi B built 4 human beings inside her own body, while also building a Billboard-topping catalog with her own name on it. And any critic who has never lifted anything heavier than a microphone should sit that one out. Now let me draw all 3 threads together, because this is where the picture gets crystal clear. Cardi B is not having a bad week. Cardi B is having a defining week. Because in the span of 7 days, Cardi B released a song that everybody is dissecting, performed at a stadium that revealed the exact gap she needs to close, faced down a former friend who turned the friendship into a chart entry, and simultaneously opened up about postpartum recovery in a way that reframes the entire narrative. That is not a fall. That is a pivot. And artists who know how to pivot in real time are the artists who define the next 5 years of a genre. Latto, meanwhile, is playing her hand exactly right. Latto knew exactly what she was doing when she released Big Mama. Latto knew exactly what she was doing when she confirmed the diss on Breakfast Club. Latto knew exactly what she was doing when she stayed silent about the Birkin. Because in the current era of hip-hop, silence about a gift is worth more than acceptance of the gift. If Latto had accepted the Birkin, the story would have died with the receipt. Latto refusing the Birkin is what turned this into a 2-quarter news cycle. And Latto's team knows that. Latto's team is playing the long game. And Thee Stallion is caught in the crossfire of a completely separate storm. A storm that has nothing to do with Cardi B and everything to do with the way the internet weaponizes speculation. Thee Stallion did not release a diss track. Thee Stallion did not skip an apology. Thee Stallion cooked spaghetti. And Thee Stallion is now a hashtag for the 3rd time this quarter about her physical appearance. That is the black woman in fame tax that nobody talks about honestly. Thee Stallion is being audited for existing on camera. I want to know where you land, because this is not a story with one clean answer. Do you think Cardi B was justified in scrubbing Latto out of Errtime at Essence Festival? Or do you think Cardi B should have swallowed the pride and delivered the song as originally released? Do you think Aha is a diss aimed at Latto, aimed at Akbar V? Or is it a general shot fired into the room to see who ducks first? And do you think the accusations against Thee Stallion are legitimate concern or a coordinated pile-on that the internet needs to sit down about? 3 questions. 3 landmines. Pick your side in the comments and defend it. Because I read every one of them. And the smartest takes always come from the section down below. Let me leave you with one more receipt before I let you go, because this receipt is the one I cannot stop replaying. When Cardi B addressed Latto in her response statement, Cardi B said something that most public feuds never include. Cardi B said, quote, "I have always had love and respect for you, and I always wanted to make it right." That single sentence is the anchor of Cardi B's entire posture in this feud. Because everything else Cardi B has done, the apology, the Birkin offer, the outreach to the sister, the outreach to the manager, all of it hangs on that one sentence. Cardi B is not fighting to save face. Cardi B is fighting to save a friendship that already died on Latto's studio microphone. And Latto, on the other side of that microphone, is fighting to prove that being called a name, even by a peer, even in a heated phone call, even in a moment neither of them ever expected to hear replayed, is not something an apology and a bag can bury. Latto is fighting to say that respect has to be public because the disrespect was public. And I understand that argument. I do not agree with every step of the execution, but I understand the argument. Which is why this feud, unlike Cardi B and Nicki Minaj, unlike Cardi B and Ice Spice, unlike almost every other beef in the female rap canon of the last decade, does not have a clean villain. Both women are correct on the parts they are fighting for. Both women are wrong on the parts they are refusing to bend on. And both women are, whether they admit it or not, still building each other's biggest headline of the year. That is the ugly beauty of a fallen friendship in the streaming era. The wreckage sells better than the reconciliation ever would. So where does this leave us? It leaves us watching Cardi B walk into her next arena performance with something to prove. It leaves us watching Latto walk into the next award show cycle with a diss already locked into the culture. It leaves us watching Megan Thee Stallion decide whether to break her silence on a rumor that will not go quietly. And it leaves us, the listeners, the readers, the commenters, the streamers, deciding whose narrative we amplify, whose story we bury, and whose comeback we co-sign. Cardi B has already told us where she stands. Cardi B is going back on stage. Cardi B is going back into the studio. Cardi B is going back to being the mother of four who refuses to name a favorite child and refuses to name the target of AHA. Cardi B is not shrinking. Cardi B is expanding into every corner of the culture at once. And the algorithm, the same algorithm that decides which stories rise and which stories vanish, is currently sitting on Cardi B's shoulder like a co-pilot, watching every move, measuring every stream, and rewarding every ripple. That is why we are here tonight. That is why this story is trending in 7 countries. That is why the Cardi B and Latto arc is going to define the last quarter of this year in hip-hop. Because when two women who used to hug on red carpets end up erasing each other from their own songs on live television, the whole industry has to stop and take notes. Before I let you go, because I know some of you are already scrolling to the next video, do me one favor. Save this breakdown. Send it to the friend who still thinks AHA was aimed at Nicki. Send it to the friend who still thinks Latto took the bag. Send it to the friend who still thinks Megan Thee Stallion's TikTok comments are harmless. Because these 3 stories are not going to fade this week. These 3 stories are going to compound. And when the next chapter drops, and it will drop, probably before the weekend is over, you are going to want to be the one in your group chat who saw it coming first. That is the tea for tonight. I will see you at the next spill, because Cardi B, Latto, and Megan Thee Stallion have all made it very clear that they are not slowing down, and neither am I. Drop your prediction below. Tell me who you think AHA is really aimed at. Tell me whether Cardi B was justified at Essence. Tell me whether Megan Thee Stallion deserves the pylon or a public apology from the comment section. And then hit the next video in the queue, because the follow-up on this story is already being written as we speak. And I promise you, it is going to be even louder than tonight was. Until then, protect your peace, question your sources, and never trust a diss track that drops the same week as a Birkin refusal. Because in this culture, silence is expensive, gifts are strategy, and every stage is a chessboard. Cardi B just moved a queen. Latto just moved a knight. Megan Thee Stallion is standing in the middle of the board pretending she is not on it. And the rest of us are watching the game in real time, holding our breath, waiting to see whose king falls first. I will see you at the next chapter. Stay loud. Stay tuned. Stay ready. Let me pull the lens back one more time, because there is a piece of this puzzle that almost every gossip breakdown online has completely missed. The timing. The timing of every single one of these events is not accidental. Cardi B did not drop AHA on a random Tuesday. Cardi B dropped AHA in the exact window where Latto's Big Mama album was still riding chart momentum. That is not coincidence. That is calendar warfare. Because Cardi B knows, the way every veteran rapper knows, that a diss drop during a rival's active album cycle steals the conversation, steals the streams, and steals the spotlight in a way that no delayed response ever could. Cardi B has been in this game long enough to understand that the loudest response is the response that lands on the exact same news day as the offense. And Cardi B pulled that trigger with sniper precision. Here is something else I want you to sit with, because it has not been said loudly enough. Latto is thriving in this exact moment. Latto is not the wounded party the internet keeps trying to paint her as. Latto is the artist with a chart-climbing diss track, a fresh album cycle, a Breakfast Club interview that went viral, and a public conversation about her music that has more energy behind it than any prior Latto release ever generated. Latto is winning. Full stop. And Latto knows she is winning. That is why Latto is not budging. That is why Latto is not accepting the Birkin. That is why Latto is not returning the private messages. Because the moment Latto reconciles, the moment vanishes. And Latto is not ready to give up the moment yet. Which is why Cardi B's next move is going to be the most watched move in hip-hop this month. Does Cardi B respond to Latto's Breakfast Club appearance with another song? Does Cardi B respond with an interview of her own? And every one of those changes, the diet, the training, the mental health work, can and does affect skin tone. And a Megan Thee Stallion who is now sleeping better, eating better, training smarter, and staying indoors more often for filming schedules is going to look tonally different than the Megan Thee Stallion of 3 years ago. That is not bleaching. That is biology. But the internet does not care about biology when the internet already has a hashtag. I said it at the top of this breakdown, and I will say it at the bottom. Megan Thee Stallion is being audited for existing on camera, and the audit is louder than the evidence. Megan Thee Stallion deserves the same benefit of the doubt every other celebrity gets when their appearance shifts across a 2-year window. And if Megan Thee Stallion does eventually address it, I hope she does it in a way that shuts the conversation down for good, because the conversation has already cost her more mental bandwidth than any TikTok cooking video should ever cost. Alright, I want to close tonight with the biggest prediction I am willing to put on the record. Cardi B and Latto will not reconcile before the end of the year. I said what I said. Cardi B and Latto are not going to hug it out on a red carpet. Cardi B and Latto are not going to release a surprise unity track. Cardi B and Latto are not going to sit down on a joint interview and laugh about how silly this all was. Because there is too much money in the tension. Streams are up. Interview requests are up. Album mentions are up. Album positions are up. And in the current economics of hip-hop, tension is worth more than harmony. Both women's teams know that. And both women's teams are quietly letting the tension breathe. That is the ugliest truth about the modern rap ecosystem. The industry rewards feuds. The industry does not reward friendships. And until that math changes, we will keep watching artists like Cardi B and Latto detonate relationships for the sake of quarterly performance metrics. But I still hope I am wrong. I still hope Cardi B and Latto find their way back to whatever they had before the phone call leaked. Because the culture was better when they were on the same side. The culture was better when the Barty gang and the Latto fanbase were trading playful jabs instead of chart-driven warfire. The culture was better when a Cardi B verse on a Latto remix meant celebration instead of grievance. I hope we get that back one day. But I am not holding my breath. Tell me your final prediction in the comments before you close this tab. Do Cardi B and Latto reconcile in 2026, 2027, or never? Do you think Aha ends up charting higher than Latto's response track when the 6-week window closes? And do you think Megan Thee Stallion will finally address the bleaching rumor before the end of the year, or will she let the silence do the talking? I read every comment. I respond to the smart ones. And the smartest predictions always end up quoted in the next breakdown. That is the tea. That is the whole tea. That is every drop of it, poured hot, poured honest, and poured without a single filter. Cardi B is not done. Latto is not done. Megan Thee Stallion is not done. And neither is this channel. Stay ready. Stay refreshed. Stay one scroll ahead of the algorithm, because the next chapter is already brewing, and I plan to be the first cup you reach for when it drops.